Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of Linux Basics for VLSI. In this series, we are covering Linux fundamentals and features that are frequently used in day-to-day work in VLSI. In today's episode, we will make you familiar with Linux know-how, LSF, Grid Engine, VNC Viewer, and SSH clients which are used in day-to-day work in the VLSI industry. We will also make yourself familiar with commercial and non-commercial Linux distributions out there. So sit tight and enjoy the learning experience.
Hey folks, welcome back to the computer screen. In today's episode, we will be going to discuss these points. Software categories, their fundamental, commercial software categories, what is Linux, famous Linux distributions and logos, Linux desktop environments, various look and feels, why you must know Linux for VLSI, VNC server and viewer. Also, we will look into SSH clients. Layered connectivity used to Linux in VLSI. So folks, this is the menu for today, and without any further delay, let's begin. Software categories, fundamental. First of all, when we have any computers, we obviously have to have a software inside it. Now, broadly, the computer softwares can be classified into two categories. The first one is system software or operating system. Mostly you are familiar with Windows, that is a system software or operating system. The next one is application software or app. So, application software is like Office. Let's look at some of the examples. System software examples are Windows, Mac and Linux. Also Solaris. So these are system softwares. These system softwares take care of the booting of the computer system. And the application software such as Office, Notepad, Paint, all of these you are familiar with, and many others. These are general softwares, that is application softwares. These are used for their specific purposes. Now once the machine has booted up and ready, that time we launch the application softwares. Now you understand fundamental difference of the two kind of softwares. Now, commercial software category. We have just talked about two broader category of the softwares. Any one of them can be recategorized in closed source software, which has subdivision of freeware, shareware, and proprietary software. Now, what is a freeware? Freeware is a software where you don't have to pay any license fees. You can go ahead, download it, install it, and start using it. Shareware is a software where you also do not have to pay the license fee. Condition is you will get advertisements in the software once you are connected to the internet. And here, if you want to remove the advertisements, you have to purchase the license. The next category is proprietary software, which is neither like freeware nor like shareware. For this category, you have to purchase the license. The another category is the open source software, where it is similar to freeware, however, you have the access to the source code, where in the closed source softwares, you cannot see the software code, whereas in open source software, you can access the source code from some repositories and you can make your own fork of that particular software if you are a programmer. Now, our proprietary operating system is Windows. Generally, we use it from the schools or college days. And the Linux comes under the open source software. Now why open source? We will come to know about the various distributions. Linux when started, it was only a single particular flavor or two particular flavor. From there it has branched out in many flavors. These flavors are termed as distributions or distros. So we are done with this particular slide. Let's move on. What is Linux? That is a good question. Now let us see the answer. Linux is a family of open source Unix-like operating system first released on September 17, 1991 by Linus Torvalds. This operating system code is called the Linux kernel. So from the name of the creator, name the operating system as Linux. So the core is termed as kernel. Better you in into your mind. Later on, you will see what is a kernel and how the architecture is there. Typically, the GNU utilities come in several distributions to serve the different purposes. So, we are talking here about the various distributions. I just talk about some of them later on. We'll see some logos in upcoming slides. So, wait for that time. Non-commercial Linux distributions are like Debian, Fedora, and Ubuntu. So, these are very much famous. At least, the Fedora and the Ubuntu are very much famous. There are a lot of other famous distributions also. So, we'll show them. Commercial Linux distributions include enterprise distribution of Red Hat and SUSE. So these two are most used Linux operating systems in VLSI, because when they are used in the companies, they have to use a purchased copy so that they get a proper support in case of there is some issue in the operating system. So here we are done. Let's go to the next point. CentOS is open source version of the Red Hat. It came to the end of life in December 2020. Yes, last December only. If I have made the video before the December 2020, then I could have mentioned the CentOS is a very good alternative of the Red Hat, because it is built on the Red Hat codebase. Now, after the end of life, it will continue as CentOS Stream or RHL Beta. Whereas the Rocky Linux has emerged as a successor of the CentOS, a complete rebirth. It's a fork of the CentOS, and people who are using the CentOS earlier now moving to the Rocky Linux. Now, why I mention about the CentOS and then Rocky Linux? In many of the companies, instead of Red Hat Enterprise, many of the small companies, they use the CentOS earlier than December 2020. Now, I think they are migrating to the Rocky Linux. So this is just for your information purpose. I have kept these points. Famous Linux distributions and logos. Now, I'll go through in this slide some of the famous Linux logos, their names, so that you can have a good idea of what to look for in case you are having a installation. Obviously, you cannot have the enterprise distributions because they are priced. However, you can go for the free ones. Now, let's start. First one is Ubuntu. Already in last video, I have shown the installation of Ubuntu to the VirtualBox. Next comes the Debian. Actually, Debian is the father of Ubuntu. So Ubuntu is a fork of the main Debian distributions. Next is the Fedora. Fedora is also based on the Red Hat code base. Next is the Linux Mint. Next is the Arch Linux. We have the SUSE. And so we also have the Red Hat Linux. Also, we have the Garuda Linux. Now, I will ask you a question to find out in the internet why the Garuda is getting popular in the Indian subcontinent. Please go ahead, look for the answer and put your answers in the comments. Rocky Linux is, just I mentioned, which is a rebirth of the CentOS. We also have the Gentoo Linux, we have the Puppy Linux, and we have the Kali Linux. Kali Linux is used for the ethical hacking purpose. So folks, these are the few very famous Linux distributions and their logos. So we are done with this particular slide. Let's move on. Linux desktop environments look and feel. Now, when we use the Linux in GUI mode, we can have three different kind of desktops. First one, yes, you have seen this particular desktop in Ubuntu installation, and it is called GNOME. This particular desktop environment is called GNOME. The next one here, it is called XFCE. So this is another kind of desktop environment. You can see the change, look and feel is very much different. Obviously, these things are very much distribution specific. Some distribution use GNOME, some distribution use XFCE. The third one is called the KDE Plasma. This is, you can see from the very beginning, it is having a menu bar and all, which kind of Windows look alike. KDE can be found in the Kubuntu installation. So these three major desktops can be found. Okay, so if you are logging into a particular Linux base machine, there you can come across any of these three desktop environments. So you will not be shocked that, okay, I learned some particular desktop environment and now it looks different. No, there are several distributions, so you are now familiar with most of them. We are done with this particular slide. Let's move on. Why you must know Linux for the VLSI. First, at learning stage, many free and open source VLSI tools are available in Linux only. In this channel, you can see that I have already created a series on STA, where I have used the open source software called OpenTimer. So this is, you can install in Linux only and in Mac, but not in Windows. So such many softwares are there out there in the open source domain, which you can install and try and learn. So that can be your basic motivation of learning the Linux. However, wait for the next points. All industry-level VLSI tools installs and run on either Red Hat or SUSE distribution. That means beyond this channel, if you try to enter into the VLSI industry, there you have to face either Red Hat or SUSE. This is a must. So learning basics Linux commands is the first coursework of any fresher entering into the VLSI industry. So when you get on board, maybe you are the intern or maybe you are an employee. In that case, the first coursework that you have to do, that is Linux. Because in VLSI, everything at the end runs on Linux. Most of the time, you have to log into a remote server through the VNC viewer, which connects from Windows, that is starts from Windows and end up in Linux server. So your Linux knowledge is must. There are few more points. Let's see them. Load sharing facility, LSF by IBM, or Univa Grid Engine, that is UG, both works through Linux. These load sharing facility and UG, that is LSF and UG, reserve your slot for the VLSI tool execution with mentioned specific resources including RAM, CPU, RHEL, SUSE, GUI, CLI. Let's move on to the next point. Because every VLSI tool has a separate system requirement to run. Yes, this is the very important point, because in VLSI each tool will have its CPU requirement, separate RAM requirement, maybe some other hardware requirements like GPU. We have to specify through the command line resource specification for either of the two, that is LSF or Grid Engine. To use any GUI, that is graphical user interface, you have to launch it from the Linux command line prompt. You may say that I will use the Linux GUI. However, to launch the GUI, you have to first go into the Linux command line and then you have to launch it. So this GUI is not only the Linux operating system, this GUI could be GUI VLSI tool also. Next, many batch processing of the VLSI tools can be easily done by Linux scripts, that is shell scripts. So for this already I have tutorial series in this channel, batch scripting for VLSI. You can go ahead and watch that particular series. These batch scripting makes life easier for batch processing, automation, everything. So the shell scripting, that is batch scripting, is a bit advanced. However, to use that, you must have the basic Linux command skills. That is another motivation for you to learn the Linux. Next, you have to use a remote disk base. Sometimes you have to mount it also. This mounting concept is specific to the Linux only. You don't have this mounting concept in Windows. The reason is base machine generally don't contain much space in your home directory. So you have to use a remote machine always and a remote disk base. And also the VLSI tool will not run in your Linux base machine. It has to run through the LSF or Grid Engine, as mentioned in the first point of this page. So as summed up, these are all reasons for you to learn Linux. If you are enough motivated to learn the Linux, let's move on to the next slide. VNC server and viewer as used in the VLSI. This is a very good concept. VNC server and the viewer are the two important things used in the industry. The remote machine to which you want to log in will run a VNC server, from where you will get a server address, as you can see in this picture, and it will be a Linux machine definitely. Whereas your machine, that is on which you are working, sitting in your desktop, mostly it is a Windows machine from which you will launch the VNC viewer. However, the VNC viewer is also available for Linux distributions too. So this is the general architecture in any of the companies. Your base machine on which you are working, physical computer, that is Windows based, from which you launch a VNC viewer and connect to the remote machine which is running the VNC server, which is on Linux. So at the end machine, you have to use the Linux commands or Linux features or both. So this is another motivation for you to learn the Linux. Now let's move on to the next slide. SSH terminal emulators and managers. Now, before showing you anything here, I would like to briefly say that why this is important. To VNC viewer, you can connect to a remote machine, work there. However, to transfer file in between your remote machine and your local machine, whether it could be a Linux based machine and the remote Linux machine, or the remote disk area where you are working and the base area, or your base Windows system and your remote Linux machine. Any of the combinations, you can use a SSH terminal emulator and manager. The terminal emulator will give you a Linux terminal, and the managers will have the facility to secure file transfer. So few of the popular SSH terminal emulator and managers are PuTTY, MobaXterm, Visual Studio Code, Bitwise, Terminus, OpenSSH, WinSCP, Xmanager and Xshell. So these are few popular and widely used SSH terminal emulator and managers. So this will help you to remote login to terminal and or to transfer file in between your local and the remote machine. So you can explore by your own about these softwares. Many of them you can install in your Windows. We are done with this particular slide. Let's move on. What is LSF or Grid Engine? Here at the top left you can see the IBM LSF logo, and right hand side you can see the Grid Engine logo. here comes our first point. LSF stands for Load Sharing Facility, which is a workload management system for job scheduling and distribution across variety of physical computers with high performance configuration. In VLSI industry, at the end, we use very high configuration machines to run the VLSI tools. It may be high on CPU, it may be high on RAM, or both. And these machines will run on Red Hat, SUSE, either of the two. Or you can have both Red Hat and SUSE inside your company. However, there will be an array. Say if your company has 100 employees, they cannot give you 100 Red Hat machine or 100 SUSE machine. That will be very costly. And to circumvent the cost, there is an array of 20 machines. So it's a rough number I am saying. So those 20, 10 maybe are Red Hat, 10 maybe SUSE. So once you book a slot through the LSF, you can get one of the machines. Your job can be executed there, and you can then free the resources. This is the concept. Okay, let's see the bullets below. UG stands for the Univa Grid Engine, which is forked from Sun Grid Engine. It has similar functionality in nature as LSF. The VLSI software cannot be run interactively on a machine because they require too much CPU, time, memory, or other system resources. Nowadays, you also need a GPU. Many of the VLSI softwares are using GPUs. Hence, these must run in batch, that is batch job, to LSF or UG. LSF or UG takes care of the batch management, time to launch, job queue management. So everything top to bottom. There are 20 machines and 100 employees. So each of the employees in a time sequence, they will fire job for the machines. So there will be queues. Say each one has fired one job. So there will be 100 jobs, but 20 machines. This LSF or UG will make sure that 100 jobs must start and finish properly in the array. It will pick up the proper machine and then execute the job and finish it. Okay. Based on the job specification, or LSF or UG will start allocating machine, start execution of the job, and where there is enough system resources available for the jobs to complete. So not only it takes care of the beginning and ending, however it also checks that the proper system resources are allocated. If that system resource is not free, the job will wait in the queue. Once such particular system resource is free, the job will run. Once the job is completed, the running program exits the queue and frees up the physical machine. So this free machine is now available for the next job. So the slot is free and open for the next execution. So there may be the next request maybe from the same employee, or it may be from the different employee. Okay. So in this way, the smart and efficient management of the resources is done through the LSF or Grid Engine. Layered connectivity to Linux in VLSI. This is a very important slide, so sit tight and watch it carefully. This is your Windows-based machine where you physically use the keyboard, mouse, etc. and you have the monitor. It is generally Windows, in which you will launch the VNC viewer. I have already exemplified what is a VNC viewer. Now, this VNC viewer takes you to the Linux base machine, that is remote machine, but that is base machine. This base machine will have limitation that your home directory will not contain much space and you cannot run high-end VLSI tools here, because this is a very smaller configuration machine. Now, from this base machine, you will launch the LSF or UG commands, which will pull up a LSF or UG machine. And the LSF grid or the UG grid will provide you the high-end Linux machine where the job will run. So in this layered way, the VLSI tool is run in the industry. Now let me bring my mouse. Generally, once you have the Windows machine on and you have the VNC turned on and you have gone to this stage, so you will stay at this stage only and you will move to and fro here and here in these three layers. Okay, so this is the general practice. And once you log out, you may log out from this and you come back to your Windows. Again, once you logged in to VNC, first you go there and then you go to the Linux base machine, and from there you fire the LSF or UG jobs, which will run at the high-end Linux machines. So this is the architecture, how the Linux machines are used in VLSI. So folks, we are done with this particular slide. Let's move on. Thank you very much for watching up to this point, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. In case you have some dislikes, put that as in words in the comment section down below, and bye for today.